Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I am the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. That's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Dr. Ruth Jones. She has over 25 years experience in the aerospace industry, skilled in Mishap Investigation, Optical Physics, and Engineering Management. But she's also the founder of It's All About MEI, LLC, and she delivers speeches on topics like leadership, career development, and mindset. So I'm really curious to learn more about her founding her company, the journey to get to where she is now, and how a physics major endorsed or embraced public speaking. Welcome to Teach the Geek Interviews, Dr. Jones.
Well, thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes. Hello. So, as I said in that little intro, that you studied physics. So, what was the motivation to do that?
Well, it was kind of accidental. I didn't go to college to major in physics. Initially, I was a accounting major, but my college algebra professor, Dr. Mia, he saw my mathematical skills and he persuaded me to change my major to physics, and that's how I got into physics
Oh,
initially.
okay. Okay, cool. But
Yeah.
then I saw you didn't stop there. You went all the way to PhD. So I'm
Yeah, I
curious.
said if I'm going to do it and to be considered a physicist, I needed my PhD, so I decided to go all the way,
Oh,
master's and
wow.
PhD.
That's impressive. So then I'm curious. So once you go all the way and you get all these degrees, so what kind of work did you do once you were done?
Once I got my PhD from Alabama A&M University, I started working for NASA as an optical physicist. And from there, I just, through the years, did other leadership roles and other jobs within NASA. My whole career has been with NASA.
Oh,
So I've
okay.
been a safety and mission assurance lead, I've been a mishap investigation specialist and associate manager, deputy division chief, acting director. So I've had a lot of different roles at NASA.
So you go into NASA, I suspect, as an individual contributor, and you said that you eventually took on leadership roles. Is taking on leadership something that you aspire to do, or something that just happened?
No, I have a innate leadership in me. So after I, did a few skills and just doing the actual work, I've always been a leader. So I just thought just taking on the role to lead others would be a great role for me to take on. And that's what I did.
What's one thing about leading others that you didn't anticipate before you actually started doing it?
I guess the different personalities. And you think everybody's on the same page on a team, but sometimes they're not. And that's a good thing that they're not on the same team. But I did initially find that being a young leader and you have to lead older employees is a task within itself. Because you're coming in young, you got bright ideas, but the older employees still want to stick with the same stuff. They're not willing to make those changes within the organization. So that's something that I did not really put into factors and as far as being a leader. That's something that I'll have to deal with.
So what'd you do to turn that around?
Communication and just ask, like what would they like to see done differently, if anything. And if they said nothing, then that's when I just try to, poke around and hey, what about this? So I was the type of leader I would get their input and insight before actually trying to make changes. Because I'm not the type of leader just go in and make a lot of changes without input from the team. Because what I think is good, they may not think it's good. So it was basically communications and just developing that relationship with them.
What do you think about, I think, oftentimes when I hear people talk about leadership, they talk about leadership style. But based on what you're saying, it sounds like you lead based on how others want to be led. Do you think that people should have a leadership style?
I think you should have a leadership style, but that can always be altered. It depends on the group because your leadership style may not work with your team that you have. So sometimes you have to be flexible and do other things. So I
Yeah.
think just, being open and being flexible is the key to being a great leader.
And then the various roles that you've taken on at NASA, are those roles that you thought to do, or those roles people thought you would be good in, and that's how it happened?
My first role is something I wanted to do. I was voluntold to go into safety, so that's something that I did not want to do. But in the long run, that was my best time at NASA. That was like the best career that I did have. So sometimes others can see things in you that you really don't see in yourself, or you never really would have put that on a radar. Because being a physicist, I never considered safety. I thought I was going to be a renowned researcher, develop something, invent something So when my supervisor actually told me to go into safety, I was a little heartbroken. I was very discouraged because I'm like, I got a PhD in physics. What can I do in safety? But come to realize there were a lot of things that I could contribute to in safety. And that was, like I said, that was my best career ever, was when I was in safety.
What do you think that your supervisor saw in you that made him or her think that safety was for you?
Initially, I don't know if it was, I don't know if it was in his best interest that, I would go to safety. I think he was just putting me there because, he didn't want me in the group anymore. So I think it was one of those things that he probably thought he was hurting me, but I just made the best out of it.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's
Yeah,
one of those
it's one of those
situations.
things.
I I didn't know.
Yeah, I turned it around in my favor.
All right. Hopefully you didn't have to relive any bad experiences. Sorry about
Oh, no,
that.
no, no. Everything happens for a reason. I'm very positive, very optimistic. So, like I said, I took it and I just ran with it. You're gonna put me here, I'm gonna make the best out of it.
Got it. Okay. You know, now that I think about it, I think a lot of people that get PhDs in physics, they tend to stay in academia. Was that ever something that you thought about, or was going or leaving academia always the plan?
I have done academia. I've been an adjunct professor at several universities, so I do like teaching. It's just that I've had so much fun with NASA in my career that I haven't given up the NASA responsibilities or roles in order to become a full-time professor.
Okay.
But that is something that's on my radar that I may consider later.
Oh, oh, okay, okay. So it's not off the table.
No, it's not off the table. That's why I do adjunct to keep my problem solving skills up to date and
Got it.
stick with the latest and greatest in physics.
What do you adjunct in?
Physics.
Oh, okay. Just physics generally.
Yeah,
Nothing.
physics or material science, anything related to physics. I've done some engineering courses as well.
Okay,
So
got it.
yeah.
So from the intro that I gave for you, you started your own business. I'm curious, what was the motivation to do that?
Well, I've been speaking all my life, so I just decided, that could be like my side hustle and that could be a career for me once I decide to retire from NASA. Because I enjoy doing public speaking. Like I said, I've done it all my life. So I said, why not turn it into a business where I can get paid for it and then just be on another level instead of like local, be more nationally and internationally.
Got it. So I read the what your company is called. It's all about MEI. Is that how it's set? Is that how it's said?
No, it's actually pronounced, it's all about me.
Oh, okay. But
And working for NASA, acronym is my second language. So
oh,
the MEI stands for, it's all about motivating, elevating, and inspiring.
oh, okay. Got it. Okay. So it's all about me, LLC. Hey,
Yeah,
it kind of rhymes. I like that. Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay.
exactly.
Absolutely. So when it comes to what you speak about, what types of topics do you speak on with It's All About Me?
Speak about leadership, how you as a person affects your leadership. It's all about you. And then also talk about setting boundaries, having your own personal board of directors, and also being confident, and then just different roles and how you can better yourself.
Personal board of directors. What does that mean?
That means that you need a support system to help you get through in life. I mean, you don't have to go through life alone. So on this personal board of directors, you should have it. I have 5 members on my personal board of directors, but I tell people they should have at least 3 people. So you should have a true friend, a praying warrior, a mentor, a sponsor, and or a connector on your personal board of directors. And these are different people in different areas in your life that you may need, because a sponsor and a mentor are 2 different people. A mentor is an experienced person that can help you with, work, school, or just life in general. A sponsor is a person who's advocating for you when you're not in the room. So they're going to help you get to that next level. They're talking about your skills, your morals, your values, and your abilities. And then the connector is a person who can basically, that's the hookup person. They know some of everybody. If you need a job, they know who to go to, who's hiring. If you want to know the best restaurant in Alaska, they can point you to that. If you need a mobile mechanic, they can tell you about that as well. So a connector is just a person, they know a little bit of everything and they can connect you with different people.
How'd you come to those 5 people specifically to be on the board of directors?
I, I don't know, just throughout my life, I've had those people in my life and I just named them that. Yeah, at first I was naming everybody a mentor and I was like, this person's not really a mentor, they're more like a connector. This person's more like a sponsor. So that's when I just navigated and just called them different things instead of these are all my mentors.
Okay, yeah, okay, got it. And then also, when it comes to the speaking that you do, what types of audiences do you speak for?
All types of audiences, but lately it's been college students. I've been commencement speakers. I've spoken at different conferences. Recently, I was the keynote speaker at Society of Women Engineers, and that was over 15,000 women engineers. I've also done a leadership summit with Strata, and that was to the HBCU's leaders, the students, and presidents. So I talk to different audiences. Just whatever you need to talk about, I'm flexible. I can talk about anything.
Okay, so
So
I'm curious about the recent one you did for the Society of Women Engineers. What did you speak to them about?
I spoke to them about it's all about me. So I wanted people to focus more on themselves and think about a legacy, their legacy. How do they want to be remembered once they're gone? And then also just to take more time out and pretty much just take care of yourself. Because a lot of times we are so busy taking care of other people that we negate to take care of ourselves. So I wanted them to focus on it's all about me. It's all about you. How are you going to put yourself on your calendar and make yourself important? Because, in the day to day, we wear so many hats. You got your mom hat, you got your sister hat, cousin hat, work hat, church hat, PTO hat, but nobody has that me hat on. And that me hat is never put on or it's way at the bottom. And by the time you get to the me hat, you're so exhausted, you don't really have time to take care of yourself. So I just wanted the women to focus more on themselves, to take more time, be very intentional about taking care of themselves.
Got it. Because I okay, so that's good because when I first think about it's all about me, it sounds rather self-centered. But the way the way you describe it, it makes it sound more, well, less self-centered for sure.
Yeah. And, being selfish isn't a bad thing. It's about taking care of yourself,
Yeah,
because we take care of everybody else. So it's like one of those things like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to set some boundaries. I'm going to learn to say no to some things because, sometimes we say yes to everything. Can you be there? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. And we overbook ourselves. So we have to learn to say no and not feel guilty about it.
I'm very glad you brought that up, Dr. Jones, because a few months ago I read a piece in a magazine about non-promotable tasks. And these are things like making the coffee or taking notes at a meeting or planning a holiday meeting. And the post was about doing these things, but doing them with strategy in mind to see that it can benefit you, as opposed to you seeing it as a non-promotable task, seeing it as something that could actually help you move forward within a career. What are your thoughts on non-promotable tasks?
It can help you. You have to go in and being intentional. So if you're going to be the note taker for meetings, be intentional about briefing the notes out to the leader that asks you to do it. That gives you visibility. If you're going to make coffee for the team, just be very personal about it. Like, what type of coffee do you guys want? So I think if you do it correctly, it could be very valuable because it's another way to network with people that you probably would have never networked with. So just pick your battles on which ones you want to do. If you think it's not going to benefit you, then you may not want to do it. But if you can see some benefit in it, why not?
It's interesting because I remember when I read the article, it was the first time I'd read something that said that non-promotable tasks might be something you want to do because everything up until that point that I had read or consumed was don't do them because they're non-promotable. But then,
Right.
but then, I hear this, I read this article written by a woman I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and I thought, oh well, that's certainly a different way to look at it.
Yeah, it is. And then sometimes leaders may look at, well, if you're going to do something like that, that people look as non-promotable, and if you do it, then that may be a star for you. Like, oh, they're willing to take notes, even though they're this PhD or even though they're a leader, they still like to take notes. So it just depends on how you do it. And if you look at everything in a positive light and don't look at it as a negative thing to do, then some joy will come out of it.
Yeah, just like how you moved into safety, you looked at it as a positive, right?
Yes, I did. And you make the best out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
After I read that article too, it reminded me of a conversation I had with a former colleague. And she said that back at one of her jobs, she worked as a paralegal. She used to make the coffee. And I remember thinking, were you bitter about having to make the coffee? But she said no, because she got to make it the way she wanted to. So she saw the positive, right?
Exactly. You got to find the positive in it. Yes.
Yeah, yes.
And
So
she knew the
you,
coffee was going to be good because she made it.
because she
So yeah.
made it, absolutely. Dr. Jones, during you mentioned earlier in the conversation that speaking is something you've been doing for quite some time, but I'm curious, is it something you've always been good at? And if not, what did you do to improve at it?
Well, I've always been good at speaking, and that comes from my parents because, growing up in the church, I always had to be on program. I had to do some type of speech, a welcome, an acceptance, some type of speaking role. And then in my community, we had a girls' club. It was called the Nancy Elizabeth Prophet Federated Girls Club. And we used to have oratorical contests. So we had to memorize a poem and then you compete on reciting the poem and you have all types of, expressions to go along with the poem. So I've been speaking for most of my life. And when I got into college, I would go back home and speak to my former schools just to let them know the importance of education and then the importance of math and science. Because I wanted them to see me, to let them know that I grew up in the same city. I went to the same schools that they're going to, and now I'm in college. And then later on, I started working for NASA to let them know that even though you grow up in a rural area, that doesn't dictate on where you can go. So I wanted to be that face for them. And once I started doing a lot of speaking, NASA asked me to speak on different platforms for them. And I knew I was good at speaking, but I could always use some improvements. So that's when I joined Toastmasters, and that kind of enhanced my speaking abilities even more.
Yeah, I was a member of Toastmasters too. In fact, one of the clubs that I was a member of, we had a jar where you would put money in every time you used a filler word.
Yes.
And I remember we had one member, he would just come in the room at the beginning of the meeting, just put money in it. He just
He
like,
already knew, huh?
he already
But
knew what
maybe
time
he
it
should have
was.
saved some of that money and be like, okay, today I'm not going to put any money here because I'm going to be intentional about not using those filler words.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hard to do though. But once you keep practicing, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's definitely hard, and it very well could be distracting to others. In fact, a story I often tell is when my mother was listening to one of these podcast episodes. She said that I did a good job, but I don't know how she was able to say that because she also said she stopped listening after 5 minutes. When I when I asked her why, she said that my guest said so many times within that 5 minutes she got frustrated and just stopped listening.
Wow. It can be a distraction.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I guess now that I think about it, I think, well, maybe I should do some better editing, I guess.
Cut it down.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta look at it as a positive as opposed to a negative, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So for the presentations that you do, Dr. Jones, do you have a process for putting them together? And if so, what is it?
I always ask whoever I'm speaking for, ask do they have a theme? And from that theme, I just pray about what I want to speak about and I just ask the Lord to guide me on what I need to say to that audience. And that's basically how I come up with my titles of my speeches. And then from there I just develop the speech and or slides to go with it. And I never write out a speech like word for word. I use bullets and then I just put like what I want to talk about under those bullets. So nothing is like I never wants to sound like robotic because when you memorize things like da, 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 it's just so in sync. So I want to be natural. So that's why I use bullets. And then I just practice. And each practice is totally different because I know what I want to talk about, but then one day I may say one thing that I didn't say the day before. And then when I get on stage, it's totally different because usually before I speak, I try to talk to the audience, get to know them. What do you guys want to hear? And then I kind of incorporate that into the speech. So if I don't have it memorized, then I can always adjust. And that's what I like. And
Yeah.
that's the process that I go through,
Yeah,
basically.
I agree with you. The idea of memorizing it can feel at the time that useful because you think I'm not going to forget anything. But then if you do forget something on the day of the presentation while you're giving it, then it throws you all off kilter and you don't know what the
Yes,
next sentence is. And now
exactly.
you're standing there sweating bullets and, and everyone's just looking at you waiting for you to say something. So
Exactly.
you definitely don't want to be in that situation. I like your idea of using bullets and just practicing so you make sure that you hit the bullets.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you've been speaking for some time, I'm curious about this anyway. Do you ever get nervous? And if so, how do you deal with your nerves?
Of course, I'm always nervous before I get on stage. And that's just being human. But once I get on stage and I say that first word, I'm good. It's just the point of, because they got this big introduction. It's just like, oh my God, the expectations are so high. And it's like, okay, I got to come with it, got to come with it. So it's like, I'm really nervous. But once I get on stage, like I said, once I say that first word, and I'm good after that.
Yeah, I suspect that certainly would be the case if you, as you said, you spoke in front of 15,000 female engineers and all these people
Yes,
looking at you, expecting you to say something useful, and you better come with it or something, because
exactly.
I could have been doing something else, you know.
And they have so many distractions now. They got their cell phones. So if you don't get them within that first 60 seconds, you lose your audience. So I try to come with something every time where I can get them engaged and keep their attention.
That's an excellent point, Dr. Jones. I never even thought about that. You're right. You know, in years past, before everybody had a smartphone, I mean, you could just, I don't know, fiddle with your pen, I guess, but now
Right.
you can look at your phone and play games or read emails. You could be productive looking at your phone
Exactly.
doing things as opposed to listening to this person talk. So if you're going to be a speaker, you definitely want to make it worth people's while.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. You know, when it comes to speaking, Dr. Jones, when I first put this podcast and YouTube channel together, it was based on my own struggles working as an engineer and having to give presentations in front of others and not being all that great at it. I still remember that first presentation like it was yesterday, but it was over 15 years ago at this point, and I didn't know it was possible to sweat that profusely from one's body. Well, but there I was doing exactly that, giving this presentation in front of management, and I didn't. You would have thought I would have gotten the lesson after that first presentation. Maybe I should do something different, but I didn't.
Right.
After that first, second, third, fourth, I was doing the same thing every time. I would put a
Hmm.
bunch of slides together and have a bunch of notes on them, and I'd read. So people didn't even see my face really. They just saw the back of it because I was looking at the screen reading the notes.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I get a whole bunch of questions after the presentation that I thought I'd answered during it. Again, I try to get out of there as quickly as possible, but I never did because they had all these questions afterwards. And I'm just, man, I gotta do this again next month.
Right.
It was terrible. So for the people who are listening or watching our conversation and they don't want to go through what I did, or maybe they have and they want to do something a little different, and they see the benefit of improving with their communication skills. What's the first thing that they should work on to get on that journey?
I would say just work on knowing the material. I think if you know the material, you can have bullets and you don't have to actually read. And so I would suggest that you don't put your notes in sentence form, just put it in bullet form. Therefore, to prevent you from reading, and therefore you won't sound so dull and boring. But if you put it in bullet form, that'll keep you on your toes and you won't say the same things every time. And then just practice. And I think it's always good to practice in the mirror, but also record yourself. If you record yourself, then you know how you sound. So if you sound like a robot, like, oh my God, I don't like the way I sound. So you got to go back and, do it again until you get it perfected.
Yeah,
And then the key thing is just knowing the material that you're going to talk about. Because sometimes, and I've been like this too, where supervisors may put you on the spot to talk about something in meetings. It's like, oh my God, I don't even really know what this is. I mean, they give you the notes, but you don't feel confident. And I think that's where a lot of people are. That's why they be sweating because they don't feel confident on giving the presentation. But if you have time and if it's your subject area, then you should, do more background on it to know your information a little bit better. And then the presentation will come off a lot smoother.
yeah. I can't. I didn't even have that excuse, Dr. Jones, when I had to give those presentations. I had a month to prepare for it. I knew exactly what I was going to be speaking about is project status updates. So
Right.
I had to do it, and I knew I had to do it on a monthly basis too. So I don't know why, a day or two before the presentation, I'm scrambling to put slides together, and I really should have learned my lesson earlier. It
Yeah.
basically
So
leaves
in
more of
that
the
case, yeah, preparation is the key. You got to prepare ahead of time. So you did a day or two before and you didn't feel comfortable because you just put the stuff on there and it's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to read it off. But then you get to stuff like, oh, why is that on there? Like, what did I mean by that? So you're questioning yourself, but you got to keep going because you're presenting. So if you have, plenty of time to prepare for it, I think that makes it a lot easier as well.
Yeah, yeah. Procrastination is definitely not the move. And I also was putting a whole lot of words on the slides that I mentioned and reading them. And looking back on it now, if I don't know why I was doing that if I thought I wanted to be useful to the people I was speaking to, these senior management types, because they're probably thinking, well, I could have read this at my leisure. Why am I listening to you read? I can read.
Yes, that's one of my pet peeves when people present. I hate for them to read it word for word for word. I'm just like, you could just give me your presentation. I can read it myself. If I have any questions, I'll call you and ask you questions. But that's one of my pet peeves. I hate that.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting. I bet a lot of those people wouldn't mind that arrangement either. Yes, I could send them to you. What, PDF,
Oh yeah, I'm
Word
just
doc
like,
file?
man.
I can send to you, no problem. Don't put me up in front of these people.
Yep. Mission accomplished. You got them. It should be in your inbox.
This has been a great conversation, Dr. Jones. Thank you so much for being a guest. How can people
Yeah,
get in
thank
touch with
you.
you?
You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn under Dr. Ruth Jones, and also just email, basically. But I'm on
Excellent.
LinkedIn a lot.
Got it. All right, everyone. That marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that is teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Dr. Jones.
Thank you.